"Get back here, you whore!" Daniel Stockton shrieked at me as I launched myself toward the front gate of his expansive home. He chased me, but frankly the dude didn't have a shot. 54 years old and a shade under 6 feet, and looking as if someone had dressed a snowman and given him a $20 million home on Maui. Daniel was not going to catch me, even if the other day I had gotten winded climbing up 2 flights of stairs. Unfortunately for me, the front gate was probably a solid 70 or 80 yards from the front door. Now, if I were Usain Bolt, this wouldn't have been a problem. But no, I was Charlie Gibson, an almost 30-year-old with an affinity for nachos who thought the only thing worth running to was happy hour. So, as the gate began to close in front of me, I immediately knew I was never going to make it. I was going to be trapped on this property, and Daniel was going to catch me. And then, who knew? He would probably try and hunt me for sport, like in that one Jean-Claude Van Damme movie my 10th grade boyfriend made me watch with him. After all, that was the kind of money this place exuded. Daniel Stockton was one of the richest men on Maui. He was a retired hedge fund manager who now lived in McKenna, south of the posh resorts of Wailea, along a bumpy, borderline one-lane road that was so far away from civilization that very few tourists ever made it this far. What was I doing here, you ask? Easy. I was robbing him. Daniel's wife had hired me 3 weeks ago to find the overseas bank accounts she knew he was siphoning their money into, hiding it from her so that when she inevitably filed for divorce, as it turned out in retirement, Daniel enjoyed not only sunshine but the company of prostitutes. He'd be able to keep her from getting her due. Unfortunately for him, Daniel's wife, Denise, was a lot smarter than he gave her credit for. She had refused to be a simple housewife who turned a blind eye to her husband's infidelities, and when she found out what he had been doing, she leapt into action. First, she hired a forensic accountant to go through the family's finances, the husband of a woman she knew from a country club back in New York. He was the one who had alerted her to the fact that there was money disappearing somewhere, and he couldn't track it. Then, Denise came to me. Obviously, I put Dot on the case, but she had no more luck. Rosie, who knew a lot more about secret bank accounts and money laundering than either of us, wasn't surprised. "You truly cannot understand just how important the secrecy of offshore banking is," Rosie said. "The Panama Papers that were released a few years ago barely even scratched the surface, and the journalist who leaked them was murdered shortly afterward. Even Dot isn't going to be able to hack into those banks easily. Not to mention, you need the account number and the bank name before you can even start your search. Otherwise, you're trying to find a needle in a haystack." "Okay," I'd said, thinking pragmatically. "How do we get that number?" "Well, it's probably in his home somewhere," Rosie mused. "Either that or he might keep it in a safety deposit box. But my guess is it's closer than that." "All right, cool. So if I get that bank account number, Dot, do you think you can get access to it?" "Please, those uptight Swiss should stick to making watches and chocolates. Their banks have nothing on me." Initially, the plan had been to get Denise to try and find the bank account number. After all, she lived in the home with Daniel. Unfortunately, he was a lot more careful than we thought, and he managed to keep his office closed to her at all times, and was worried that if she snooped around too much, Daniel would get suspicious and try to kill her. That was how I ended up here in the Stockton family home. Rosie and I had found the number no problem after breaking into his office when he had gone out for the day. In the interest of keeping Denise's name out of it, we'd made sure she'd gone shopping for the day, too. Unfortunately, Daniel had returned home earlier than either of us expected. When we heard the creak of the gate at the front of the property opening, the two of us froze. I told Rosie to get out of here with the statement we'd found, hidden in a secret panel underneath Daniel's desk, and I'd distract him. She'd immediately nodded and left the room. And knowing Rosie, she was probably halfway back to Kihei by now. Of course, that left me to escape the clutches of the man now coming after me down the driveway.